Hello, everyone. My presentation is about gender disparity and gender disparity in Albanian education system. But gender equity is now part of all policies and strategies of all education structures in many countries. Lack of gender equity in the education system is a big obstacle for dynamic development of the society. Lack of equity between boys and girls in schools is not a specific of one country, but a global problem. Annual reports show that a considerable number of children, mainly girls, have interrupted their education in various levels of Albanian education system due to a number of reasons. Poverty, geographical isolation, minority status, early marriage and pregnancy, immigration for boys, gender-based violence, and traditional attitudes about the status and role of women are among the many obstacles that force youth school dropout in Albania. Somehow, school today is considered an institution that encourages the female teaching styles, leaving male manners in shadow, but expressing feelings and thoughts verbally, doing homework, working group, or are some women-like characteristics. These actions do not take into consideration the strength and male interest as a result, and the considerable number of boys abandon school. This work will focus on inclusiveness education in a broader point of view, where schools should try to treat students as individuals. Even in The Economist, on the 8th of March, there was this big article about why educating girls is even more important than people realize. And this is, they made this comparison with the Taliban ruled Afghanistan. They did not favor women's education. Uh, large gender gaps exist in access, learning, achievement, and continuation of education in many settings, most often at the expense of girls, although in some regions boys are at a disadvantage. Despite progress, more girls than boys still remain out of school. 16 million girls will never set foot in a classroom, according to UNESCO Institute of Statistics, and women account for 2/3 of the 750 million adults without basic literacy skills. In the recent years, policies, strategies, and action plans have focused on providing equal opportunities to boys and girls in the family and society. Even in Albania, the Education 2030 agenda recognizes that UNESCO's work on education and gender equality is guided by the UNESCO Strategy for Gender Equality in and throughout education and Gender Equality Action Plan. Because all of this can be improved with the right intervention in curricula and school environment in order to overcome this misbalance in number of boys attending primary and secondary education. Women consist of 51% of Albanian population, but data on poverty in Albania testify to the feminization of poverty and increasing number of children afflicted by it. Albania ranked 20th among 153 countries on the Global Gender Gap Index in 2020 and was placed the 51st of 162 countries on the Gender Inequality Index in 2019. There is this panorama of the educational level of population over 25 years old. There are the levels: elementary education, middle education, and higher education. There are the respective percentages of boys and girls attending each level, and the source is Albanian Institute of Statistics. A report for Albania shows the number of boys and girls in elementary school is equal, but there are problems with the Roma community where female Roma do not attend school compared to boys. taking into consideration the fact that in some communities in Albania. Another problem is reduction of number of boys attending high school education in rural areas, taking into consideration that majority of population in Albania is rural. Gender Equality Index in Albania scores 60.4, indicating that still high commitment is needed to achieve full gender equality, that the score is lower than EU. Education attainment in Albania shows a large gap with the EU 28 average for both women and men, while the gender gap favors boys in lower education cycles and then reverses in tertiary education in favor of girls. While enrollment of boys and girls is virtually identical with the EU, in Albania, boys have higher enrollment. The Republic of Albania recognizes the importance of gender equality, and this is reflected in the dynamic policy initiatives and clear strategic commitment to promote gender equality and empower women in all domains reflected by the Gender Equality Index. However, as a result, full gender equality is still to be achieved. The National Strategy and Action Plan on Gender Equality includes activities for the improvement of education curricula in preschools based on gender analysis, as well as involvement of boys and men in the prevention of gender-based violence and domestic violence. The main sources for this analysis were provided from children registered at the beginning of school year based on gender and educational institution, while the source of information is from Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports, as well as Institute of Statistics. Usually, the education statistics present comprehensive information on registration of students according to education levels in public and private institutions at annual base. According to recent studies and audit data, some of the reasons that affect the gender misbalance in Albania's schools are the lack of sanitary knots can be a cause, especially for girls, to abandon schools, that is, toilets. Families with a big number of children need the girls at home to take care of the other children. Relatives have prejudices for girls. Among group children who risk abandoning schools are girls. Then there are the early marriages, the Roma girls, rural areas, obstacle girls' education, and economic situation is also a major reason. Mentality of parents obstacles girls in rural areas to attend schools, stopping them to attend classes after compulsory education. Indicators showing school abandoning tell that parents offer excuses not to allow girls to attend schools. They ask for warranties and protection from schools, security during road on the way to school, and protection from abuses. The key reason of non-attendance of schools by girls continues to be the houseworks, marriage at early age, violence in schools. On the other side, due to increasing number of girls leaving schools, causes increase of attendance by boys. So there is this misbalance. In general, teachers are not well prepared to work with children of different social and cultural origin. And likewise, studies show that teachers' current education is characterized by theoretical knowledge, whereas practice is almost absent, zeroing opportunities to establish teachers' capacities to deal with external factors regarding the all-inclusive education. There are some suggestions and recommendations that they can be provided from this work. So schools should ensure integrity of girls, promoting their socioeconomic rights, supporting disadvantaged groups, and engaging men and boys in all activities aimed at empowering women and providing equal opportunities. We can encourage sensitization importance of education among girls, combating prejudice of this issue affecting Albanian educational systems, ways how to overcome barriers in the access for girls to and in educational systems of Albania, measures for trainers and teachers themselves at the system level for social inclusion through education. We should create a school environment that is friendly to both sexes and ensuring that women are equally represented in teaching, administrative, and educational leadership roles. Measures to be taken by decision-taking authorities, teachers, trainers, and themselves to accelerate the reform for an inclusive policy based on data provided during the study. Coordination of trainings and other services offered by governmental and non-governmental institutions, international agencies, in teacher training institutions, schools, and communities. Even though the education laws should reflect national priorities in this field, drafting, among other things, a social, all-inclusive strategy, for example. Policy planning and teacher training practices should be focused on all-inclusive education in context of social and cultural diversity, and the changes in policies and practices are better if they could be made in harmony with teachers' experience. In conclusion, I can say that development of inclusive education practices requires efforts and joint initiatives with the participation of all interested groups. The problem of gender inequality is largely a problem arising from the patriarchal social structure. It must be admitted that all the problems that feed and grow the patriarchal social structure are against the social status of women. This topic is relevant for European policy making regarding future projects focused on prevention of school abandoning by girls. Therefore, we should pay attention to curricula and teaching models. We should look for teaching observation ways suitable for males' role also. School is one of the most important socialization tools of the modern age. So in particular, primary education and access to school are very important for the development of societies. It is necessary to carry out the right interventions in curricula and school environment in order to overcome this misbalance in number of boys attending primary and secondary, while in tertiary there was that misbalance. In this respect, local governments play a crucial role, and decentralization processes of education systems in the Western Balkans mean an increasing autonomy of schools, which can lead to increasing rights for professional decision making by teachers themselves. Uh, this this topic is sensitive in some Western Balkan countries, but as long as aspiration of these countries is joining EU, they must be ready for it. So, gender equality is not about considering women as an alternative to men, but again, gender equality is not about putting men behind social life. Men and women together mean human, so the absence of one should be understood as the absence of the other. Men and women should be considered as being that complement each other. So gender equality can be achieved through administrative decisions or legal acts. It can be established only through an efficient education system. Noting that gender equity works better in most developed countries, we should fight prejudices about gender stereotypes in curricula and textbooks. So this is my paper based on studies or different reports of UNICEF, OECD, and gender equality indexes from the different organizations, World Group, and EU founded groups. Thank you.